Hey, what's up guys, Quinn here, and today we're going to be taking a look at another Transformers figure. This is the Baiwei TW-1029, a knockoff version of the Studio Series 13/31 Megatron from Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. First off, we'll take a quick look at the packaging itself. We have, surprisingly, an official CG model of Megatron from Revenge of the Fallen, although mirrored. Baiwei is getting pretty ballsy with the packaging since their knockoff of Sentinel Prime and Shockwave also used an official CG render model. Nothing on the sides, and the back we have the product shots of the figure. That's the packaging, and being a KO, we don't get a backdrop whatsoever. Before we start though, I would like to say that I have a sore throat, so if my voice sounds different then you know why. Now onto the figure. Hasbro did an amazing job sculpting the look of Megatron from Revenge of the Fallen. Of course, this is the KO, but the mold, the engineering, and of everything like that was made by Hasbro. So I got to give them the credit for this. I really like how the chest and the cannon arm is molded. It's super movie accurate and I love it. And the paint that Baiwei used is immaculate. While it's definitely an improvement over the original figure, because the original figure is mostly unpainted, it's also missing some paint on certain parts, but that's not a problem for me. It's really interesting of how much engineering the SS-54 borrows from this figure. Again, this is a KO from Baiwei, but the mold and engineering was from Hasbro. For example, the legs and the arms transform similarly to SS-13/31, and because of that, we have a pretty smooth and satisfying transformation. While the SS-13 I'd argue is less satisfying, more so because of the QC, being a KO after all. But it's still more fun. It's still more fun to do than the SS-32, also a KO from Baiwei, mold and engineering from Hasbro. But even so, it's still not perfect. There are some parts that irritate me a little bit. Number one, these alt mode parts are annoying. They're not loose at all, but the very existence of these is irritating for me. But if you could somehow work around these parts and integrate it into the pose, then I think it's not as irritating as I thought it would be. The chicken legs is still not a good design. This is not really the toy's fault, more so because of the movie design, but it was a bit of a challenge trying to pose this guy when I first got this. Number 3, out of the box, the cannon arm was super loose. So I fixed it by adding a dab of super glue and worked the joint until the glue is hardened, and it's been working well for me. And then finally, number 4, the aforementioned chicken legs has some looseness also as well. But the more I handle this guy, the more it makes sense to have these loose. Besides, it's not that loose when you're just standing this guy, so it's fine. I tried doing the super glue trick again, this time only on the left knees, and it does not really work well. Instead of increasing the material on the joint, it's gluing the joint permanently. I also worked the joint when doing this, but ultimately it became too tight. So I added a drop of WD-40 and it makes it so that it still retains the thickness of the super glue while also not making it loose anymore, unlike the other knee to which I didn't bother fixing it. Those are some of the things that irritates me a little bit, and despite that, this figure is still pretty good. For accessories, this guy literally came with the DNA design upgrade kit included, minus the cannon arm, but we'll get to that later. The wing part can fill in the hole on the torso and also act as the wings on this alt mode. He also came with the non-cannon arm. This arm works well for the alt mode, so as it clears a lot of room for the wing part to align, but I prefer the cannon arm, so I'm just gonna leave it on. It also comes with his mangled face. You can replace it, and in my opinion, Baiwei missed an opportunity to include the SS-31 face, because that one is a lot more detailed. This one just looks like they forgot to sculpt one half of the face, but despite that, I tolerate it. It's really nice of Baiwei to include this face in the beginning, in case if you want to recreate that infamous fight scene in Egypt. So, being this a KO, you would expect it has some quality control issues with all the joints. Well, some part it is, like this one, but I fixed it. Most of these are fixable. So let's start with the posability. The head is on a ball joint. You can look left to right, but there's not much like tilt side to side though, because of the way of the ball joint was sculpted. It can look up that far, and you can use this hinge joint to make it look down that far. And this is a bit loose for my taste, but it's in the head, so it's not really a big deal for me, so I'm just gonna leave it there unfixed. And the shoulder can do full 360 rotation. It can move out about that far, but on the other side it's about that far, so not really a straight one because it's asymmetrical. We have a bicep swivel, of course. Well, both have bicep swivel really nicely. You have a single jointed bend at the elbow, and the fingers have this weird hinge joint that this part moved and this part also moves. So I wish that it was independently, but okay. And the cannon arms does not. It does have a bicep swivel, but you can extend out the knife like so, and you get the knife also. So I love the integration for this. It looks so. It is so seamless. Oops. And this has a finger over here, a thumb that you can actually move out
which I don't know if it's movie accurate or not. You could untap this hinge joint to get some butterfly joint. Both of them can do that. So it's an option if you guys want to do it. And then no waist swivel, of course, due to the the hinges on the back for transformation. I can't see where they English is hard. I can't see where they could have done at a waist swivel and everything like that. The legs can kick forward about that far due to it being hindered by the sculpting over there with the knee stuff, and of course kick about that far, like in and out. And this thigh part is easily detachable, but this is a problem that persists in the original figure, so I don't know why they just picked this, because this part over here, they fixed it. They pinned this, and this is die-cast by the way, and this is pinned because in the original figure it's just friction and it can pop off easily, but not this one. This pin is going to stay right there. And then we have a thigh swivel over here normally. Then we have the knee that I was talking about earlier. Look at that, it is so loose. It's not as loose as this one though, because this one is not the one I have fixed. I tried fixing the other height over here, but yeah, not really working well for me. But it's not as loose because when you fold it out, it's not loose. So you can play around with these hinge joints to kind of like making some poses and everything like that. I still haven't gotten used to with this hinge joint, so I'm still learning about that. And then this toe can split, which is movie accurate because the toes does split a little bit like this. And these transformation parts is annoying because it kind of hinders when you're posing it. You can take this out and makes it stand on its feet. You can stand it, of course. And it has an ankle pivot, like so. So, being an early wave of Studio Series, this guy I think is super posable. While of course it's a bit wonky compared to like SSO5 for example. Yeah, I think this is serviceable because it's not as terrible like Ironhide for example. Because Ironhide has some weird ass articulation that kind of hinders it a little bit for me, but I think this guy, for being an early wave Studio Series figure, I think it is perfectly acceptable in terms of articulation. Also, forgot to mention this missile cannon for the alt mode. I think it looks fine. I think it suits well. It doesn't really look out of place. As a matter of fact, it looks like it's part of the robot mode. I don't know if the actual robot mode has this missile cannons, but let me know down in the comments if you guys do know. Also, again, forgot to mention that the blade itself is made out of a soft plastic material. It's not rubber, it is plastic, but it is soft and is like rubberized material, so it's not really as sharp, but just be cautious of it. And yeah, that's it, I guess. For size comparison, here it is alongside my bootleg SS Figuarts Marvel Spider-Man, my previous review, the Transformers Studio Series 88 Sideways, Baiwei Star Leader, and Baiwei Earth Shattering. So the robot mode, while a bit wonky, is still pretty good. While this is a slight oversize of the original figure, I think it actually scales better with Optimus for example. And the alt mode is also pretty good. Transformation is, like I said, satisfying. It flows really well into the next step and it's really fun to transform back and forth. Still not entirely felt good however, like the cannon part sometimes doesn't feel good, and the set of tabs on each side that plugs into the leg is loose. I just send the tabs and the slots to make it fit, but everything else is super nice. Probably being held back by the QC since this is a KO after all. In my opinion, for satisfaction, Studio Series 54 still holds it as the most satisfying to transform. Tank mode is a beast. From first glance, this is super movie accurate, but of course some areas are not entirely movie accurate, like the head. Still, I think this is good enough to pass as movie accurate since it's not really based on an actual vehicle. This guy is solid when you try to roll him around with these four wheels. The thread is not movable however, of course, since it's also part of the leg on the robot mode and it will be annoying if it moves. And the front wings is pre-installed based on the DNA design kit, of course. While I wish it taps in when folded, the joint that holds each part is tight enough so it doesn't get floppy. You can plug or unfold, depending if you've already installed it on the robot mode, the wing part onto the back. However, this is where the non-cannon arm comes to play. If you replace it on the robot mode and transform it, it has enough clearance for the wing parts to fold out correctly. The reason why the cannon arm isn't ideal for the alt mode is because it is based on the original figure, not from DNA design, so it's molded differently. While you could consider this as parts forming, it is not really a must to have the wings installed. You could remove it and the tank mode still looks perfect, but
if you do take issue with the torso on the robot mode being hollow, and by adding those wing parts fills up that space, then you couldn't escape parts forming, unfortunately. But for me, I have no issues whatsoever with the torso being hollow, so I can just have the cannon arm all the time, so no parts forming for me. Now I don't know how it scales with Prime since we barely saw their alt mode side by side in the movie, but just for the toy alone, in my opinion, the tank mode is a bit small. So, should you pick this up? Well, it depends actually. If you are worried about the QC and getting a bad coffin, then this figure is not for you. However, putting that aside, I think this is another phenomenal release by Baiwei. Their figures have amazed me again and again with the amount of accessories they provided for the price and the quality. I picked this up for about 273,000 rupees or about $15 to $17 ish. While yes, it has some quality control issues, but all those things can be easily fixed. So in my opinion, this is a bargain. I would highly recommend this figure if you missed out on the original release and don't want to spend a stupid amount of money for the upgrade kit as well. You get a slightly oversized figure with better paint, some quality of life improvements, and essentially with the DNA design upgrade kit included. So get it if you can. That's gonna be my review of the Baiwei TW-1029 not Studio Series 13/31 Megatron. I hope you enjoy it and find this review useful, and I'll see you guys next time.